Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are diving into a powerful exhibit that I unexpectedly found on a recent adventure at the Daughters of the American Revolution Museum here in Washington, D.C. It's called Fighting for Freedom: Black Craftspeople and the Pursuit of Independence. This exhibit is not about battles or battlefields, but instead shines a spotlight on the craftsmen and artisans, both free and enslaved, who used their skills as a form of resistance and self-expression from the Revolutionary era onward. On display are many objects spanning furniture, silver, ceramics, textiles, tools, paintings, and more that show how Black makers created agency and autonomy through their hands. Curated in partnership with the Black Craftspeople Digital Archive, this exhibit purposefully centers these creators whose lives and work helped shape material culture and identity, and attempts to share their stories, how they harnessed craftsmanship to assert freedom, build communities, and leave an enduring legacy. How America tells the story of its revolution has long centered on one-sided narratives and celebrations of its founding fathers. These historical representations have constructed a history often devoid of any critiques of dominant people with many different viewpoints who contributed to freedom in this country. These objects challenge us to confront the complicated history of what it means to be free in the United States. They bring us closer to the legacies of enslavement, the failures of the decorative arts to fully appreciate Black artisans and their impact, and they challenge us to ponder whose names and what objects are missing as we acknowledge and celebrate Black artistic contributions in this time period. With a focus on the themes of mastery, contradictions, pride, identity, sojourn, and moments, this exhibition centers on the lives, experiences, trials, and triumphs of Black craftspeople, illuminating their journey towards autonomy and presents new insights into the American fight for freedom. Enslaved carpenters, father and son, Altamore and Taylor McKeithen, likely constructed this chair between 1841 and 1864 at Leeton Place Plantation, home of Leonidas Polk, the Episcopal Bishop of Louisiana and founder of the University of the South, Sewanee. This chair symbolizes the relationship between slavery and higher education. The early wealth, stability, and success of the university, founded to educate white men, depended on the labor of an estimated 40,000 enslaved people held in bondage by the first 295 founders of the university. After emancipation, Altamore and Taylor worked as carpenters in New Orleans. Due to Polk's founding of the university, this chair became essential to university ceremonies until recent years. In 1797, Thomas Camerall began operating his pottery in Curler's Hook on Manhattan's Lower East Side. Camerall specialized in making larger vessels adorned with his name and location, and oyster jars for oystermen to ship and sell their wares. Disillusioned with the persistence of racial mistreatment, Camerall worked alongside the American Colonization Society, ACS, and fought for the abolition of slavery. His fight for freedom led him to openly advocate for Blacks to relocate to a country where they could truly be free. In 1820, Camerall set out for Sierra Leone with the ACS. By 1822, Camerall and his family returned to New York after experiencing extreme hardships in Sierra Leone. While his sojourn did not meet his expectations, his oyster jars traveled far, with some found in countries as far away as Guyana. This storage jar is from around 1880. Born in the Virgin Islands, Peter Benson's life navigated the journey between place and race. He learned the silversmith's trade in Philadelphia between 1799 and 1806. Next, his travels took him to the Danish West Indies island of St. Croix, where he also established a silversmith business. For the duration of his life, he traveled between Philadelphia and St. Croix, crossing the color line, as records in Philadelphia recorded him as white, while records in St. Croix regarded him as biracial. His work, sophisticated and detailed, was sought after by the wealthy members of society. Bentham is the only recorded free black silversmith in the Americas, and his journey highlights the interconnections between running a successful business and race. Reverend and enslaver John M. Wilson brought Hiram Wilson, James Wilson, and Wallace Wilson to Texas from South Carolina through forced migration in the 1830s. By the 1850s, John Wilson taught the 3 enslaved men pottery techniques derived from the pottery traditions of Edgefield, South Carolina, bringing these traditions westward. In March of 1872, Hiram, James, and Wallace opened the H. Wilson and Company Pottery in rural Guadalupe County, Texas. From 1872 until the company's dissolution in 1884, H. Wilson and Company pottery flourished, using a primarily salt glaze technique from South Carolina in their ceramics production. A staple on low-country rice plantations, sweetgrass fanner baskets aided in rice harvesting. Enslaved women crafted sweetgrass baskets by coiling and weaving materials such as sweetgrass, marshgrass, palmetto leaves, and split white oak. Because fanner baskets were used for winnowing rice after it had been hulled, they were wide with a shallow edge and often created with stronger materials such as split white oak to bind the coils and ensure their durability. Fanner baskets drew their form from rice harvesting in West Africa. Enslaved Africans arrived in the Americas with their knowledge of rice growing and the tools needed. Although beautiful, fanner baskets were a tool that not only winnowed rice, but also aided in the spread of rice as a cash crop in the Low Country. Haitian-born Dutril Barjon relocated with his mother to New Orleans, Louisiana in 1809, joining a large community of recently immigrated Haitians following the Haitian Revolution. Shortly after his arrival, he apprenticed with Haitian free person of color cabinet maker Jean Rousseau for 3 years, where he learned the trade and business. In Rousseau's shop, Barjon learned how to create furniture that appealed to the elite of New Orleans, including large, oversized furniture designed to fill up plantation homes. In 1821, Barjon established his own cabinet-making shop at 245 Royal Street, known as Furniture Row, where he produced fine furniture and imported furniture from Europe. Barjon hired apprentices from Haiti, furthering connections to his identity and homeland. In 1832, Barjon advertised that he had articles of furniture for sale that were made in this city, furthering his connection to the city of New Orleans. Barjon's business prospered, and in later years he retired to Paris, leaving his shop under the leadership of his son Dutril Barjon Jr. Spinning wheels evoke images of white women in early America crafting yarn for their families. Over time, the spinning wheel has become a symbol of the patriotic sentiment in colonial America. However, the truth of the matter is that many enslaved women also identified as spinners, laboring to produce yarn and thread to meet the needs of their enslavers and fellow enslaved individuals. Enslaved spinners were trained to spin flax, cotton, and wool, and their thread could be used in the home or sold for profit. Enslaved spinners Lucinda and Patsy used a spinning wheel similar to this one. Lucinda shared the spinning wheel with her Federal Writers Project Slave Narrative Project interview, who noticed that she got out her old spinning wheel, sat down before it, and beamed. In 1850, free black potter Lucius Jordan marked this jug with his initials LJ, both claiming ownership of his creation and marking the jug with his identity. At various times in his life, the documentary record listed Jordan as either white or black. Beginning in 1836, Washington County, Georgia tax records listed Jordan as free person of color. County documents from the 1860s and 70s listed Jordan as white. While documents illustrate the complexities of race in Georgia, what is clear is that Jordan identified as a potter and marked his works, forever sealing his ownership in clay. In 1839, white portrait artist Patrick Henry Davenport painted free black businessman and rope maker Dennis Durham Jr. Dorham's portrait illustrated his free status and elevated the social standing of Doris and his wife Diadem among free blacks. The success of their rope factory and hemp business sustained them during the Civil War. Furthering their fight for equality for all, their son Joshua Dorham was a Union soldier in Company F 114th USCT. Another son was a Buffalo soldier in the Indian Wars. In 1764, the Charleston, South Carolina City Council passed a law requiring hired-out enslaved people to wear a badge identifying their trade, skill, identification number, and year. Composed of copper, the geometric tags were either pinned to clothing or worn around the neck. This yearly process of hiring out enslaved, skilled labor offers a multi-dimensional glimpse into the economic realm of the institution of enslavement. Not only did hired-out enslaved people wear these badges, but in certain cases, they were also forced to use their metalsmithing skills to make these badges. These badges symbolize the sinister work of slavery and the complicated work of black craftspeople whose labor ensured their continued oppression. Free black photographer Augustus Washington believed in the power of imagery and used that power to support his abolitionism. In 1843, Washington enrolled as the only black student at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. To pay for his education, Washington took to the new trade of making daguerreotype photographs. As his skill set grew, he earned enough money to purchase a camera and also lessons to refine his new craft. Washington thoroughly supported the abolition of slavery and used his photography proceeds to support the abolitionist movement. His name stamped inside each photograph case ensured that people connected him to his work and the abolitionist movement. In 1850, enslaved sisters Ellen and Margaret Morton crafted this wig rose quilt at the Knob Plantation in Russellville, Kentucky, home to 16 enslaved people. Their enslaver, Marmaduke Morton, a Whig Party supporter, likely commissioned the quilt as a political statement reflecting the party's wig rose symbol. Were it not for the handwritten label pinned to the back of the quilt by a descendant, it might have been misattributed to Mrs. Elizabeth Morton, denying the artistic contributions of the Morton sisters. Their forced labor and their talents contributed to all stages of making this quilt. The quilt's design demanded exceptional quilting skills as each stuffed element had to be drawn, stuffed, and sewn shut. The process was time-consuming, especially given Ellen and Margaret's other required household tasks. The artistry displayed in this quilt is representative of the pride Ellen and Margaret took in creating quilts. Known for his prose inscribed onto his pottery, David Drake is among the most well-known black potters of antebellum America. During his enslavement, Drake challenged his status by showcasing his literacy despite the state of South Carolina outlawing the education of enslaved people in 1740. Drake's inscriptions range from dates to poetic verses highlighting humor and serious convictions. His bold practice of inscribing and signing his pots was an act of resistance and pride. Through his signature, he defied the legal code, claimed his artistry, and elevated himself beyond his forced enslaved status. Lewis Buckner is among the most distinguished cabinet makers from Tennessee. Born and enslaved in 1856, Buckner trained as a cabinet maker with white cabinet maker Christian Stump after the Civil War. By 1880, Buckner was working independently, joining a cadre of black artisans in Sevier County. He used his superior carving skills to create mantels and trim work for local homes. Among Buckner's most well-known works is this bed created for William and Rebecca Henderson in 1889. Henderson hired Buckner to make a furniture suite featuring his hallmark style, largely inspired by Charles Eastlake and the aesthetic movement. Buckner added his creative flair by adorning his furniture with carved symbols such as flowers, leaves, shells, and eggplants. While enslaved on a James Island, South Carolina plantation, Tobias Scott perfected making fashionable, masterfully ornate fans from bird feathers. Scott's enslaver permitted him to make and sell these fans in his spare time. Scott understood the value of his craft and worked hard to earn enough money to purchase his freedom. After the Civil War, he and his family relocated to Charleston, where he established a shop on Water Street. Local newspapers often captured both the sale and advertisement of Scott's fans. This fan showcases the vibrant character of his creations with hawk feathers, marching horizontal stripes, and a woven quill handle. A delicate black gross-grain ribbon ties the handle. Thomas Day, a free man of color, was a cabinet maker who, by 1850, owned and operated the largest furniture factory in North Carolina. Day's ingenuity in design, incorporation of new industrial techniques, and his use of free and enslaved workers, combined with his status as a free black man, made him a rarity among black cabinet makers in the antebellum South. Acclaim for his work garnered the attention of the former governor of North Carolina, David Reed, who commissioned Day to create 47 furniture pieces for his home in 1855. Despite the acclaim and praise for his work, it became increasingly difficult for Day to work in North Carolina, where laws challenged the status of free black people. Anti-blackness, combined with the 1857 financial panic and Day's inability to collect money for furniture sold on credit, contributed to the decline of his workshop. Shortly after his emancipation, Richard Poynter declared in the November 16, 1849 edition of Western Weekly Review that he was, quote, "now on my own book." He soon established a chair workshop complete with a horse-powered lathe. Poynter used green woodworking methods to build sturdy chairs, eliminating the need for nails or glue. He made a variety of chairs, including rocking chairs, armchairs, children's high chairs, and sitting chairs. Poynter's chairs are distinctive because of their design, which includes mule-eared or curved back posts secured by wooden pegs. Poynter taught the trade to his son James and established a family business, thus advancing their economic status in the years before the Civil War. This fireplace mantel and molding are from the National Historic Landmark Menominee Plantation, home of Francis Lightfoot Lee. Built with local sandstone in Richmond County, Virginia, Menominee retains about 80% of its original architecture despite the house falling into disrepair. The names of the architect and the free and enslaved craftspeople who built the house are lost to history. This mantel, made of yellow pine and tulip poplar with dentil molding, was one of 5 in the house. While Francis Lightfoot Lee signed his name to the Declaration of Independence that proclaimed that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, he held about 200 enslaved people in bondage. This fireback bears the name of the Accokeek Iron Furnace, the second oldest 18th century iron blast furnace site identified in Virginia. Located on land owned by George Washington's father, Augustine Washington, a shareholder in the furnace, Accokeek Iron Furnace was extremely profitable, and in 1750 alone, the furnace exported 410 tons of pig iron, about 1/5 the entire quantity exported from Maryland and Virginia for that year. The enslaved laborers who powered the furnace made its success possible. Their labor permitted the Washington family and others to reap the profits of the furnace and furthered the Washingtons' reliance upon slave labor for their comfort. In 1753, Accokeek Iron Furnace ceased operations with its enslaved laborers, horses, cattle, and other supplies being sold. This double chest is the only known work of free black cabinet maker Thomas Gross. Gross learned the carpenter's trade from his father and established his cabinet-making business in Philadelphia, crafting and showcasing his wares in one of the furniture-making centers of the country. Gross supplemented his cabinet-making business with his work as an undertaker, likely crafting coffins for black Philadelphians. Gross signed this double chest as Thomas Gross/Maker on the bottom of the lowermost drawer. By placing the inscription out of sight, Gross covertly claimed ownership and recognition at a time when many Black artisans went unrecorded and unrecognized. Black craftspeople transformed the earth by hand into goods used in everyday life, from modest to elaborate, illustrating their mastery of skilled craft. This Kalanaware bowl represents the pottery traditions of West and Central Africa, where Black craftspeople molded this low-fired, unglazed, coarse earthenware into bowls and vessels used to prepare and serve food. This bowl depicts, through its survival, the legacies of craft tradition in foodways. This Rococo silver coffee pot underscores the immense skill and training Black craftspeople undertook to produce marvelously ornate objects. Charleston silversmiths, such as Alexander Petrie, used white and enslaved labor to meet the growing demand for fine silver goods. Petrie taught Abraham the silversmith trade, and he participated in various shop activities, including creating Charleston-made silver. It is unclear when Petrie purchased Abraham, but his labor and mastery of skill ensured the success of Petrie's shop. Despite Abraham's success, little is known about him besides a record of his purchase for 810 pounds, a testament to his skill, by Charleston silversmith Jonathan Saracen at Petrie's 1868 estate sale. Listed on the same page as Abraham in Petrie's estate inventory was one new coffee pot. In this instance, it is possible that the creator was listed for sale alongside his creation. As a child, Abraham Spencer learned to throw pots from the people in his Shenandoah Valley community. It is unclear who first trained him, but the abundance of potters in New Market, Virginia was fortuitous during Spencer's early years and undeniably aided in his mastering of the trade. On September 8, 1829, Spencer registered himself in Shenandoah County as a free Negro, asserting his status and securing his future. Spencer's crocks are identified by the inverted A used to mark his work. This earthenware crock features an elevated rim, consistent form, and an interior manganese glaze, all the hallmarks of a trained potter exhibiting style. Black cabinet maker John Guff signed his name on the only known piece of his artwork, making his secretary wardrobe a rare surviving example of early American furniture by a Black artisan. This secretary wardrobe's neoclassical influences reflect Charleston furniture styles on the eve of the Revolution. Elizabeth Aiken's 1763 will included Guff and outlined a manumission arrangement requiring him to pay her executors £250 to secure his freedom. Aiken also specified that, upon Guff's freedom, her executors would give him £50 to purchase the tools he needed to craft a life after enslavement. Just 2 months after Aiken's death, Guff earned the money and gained his freedom. James Woodward's cabinet-making shop utilized the work of enslaved cabinet makers. Elizabeth Bailey hired James, an enslaved cabinet maker, out to Woodward. James and other enslaved cabinet makers crafted this breakfast table. To secure his freedom from his enslaver, James borrowed $120 from Woodward. James repaid his debt to Woodward by working as a cabinet maker in his shop for 1 year. This table features 4 elegantly turned pillars of mahogany veneer and poplar. The table's claw feet are finished with green paint and gold leafage. The table's underside displays its detailed construction, showcasing James's skill. His craftsmanship secured his independence. Okay, guys, that is going to wrap up the visit to the Fighting for Freedom exhibit at the DAR Museum here in Washington, D.C. I hope this walk through the lives and work of Black craftsmen and women has left you with the same deeper appreciation for the stories that too often go unnoticed as it has left me. These were individuals, both the free and the enslaved, whose creativity, labor, and skill helped build the foundation of American life, even when the country itself denied them their full freedom. Through woodwork, silver, textiles, and artistry, they left behind more than objects. They left behind legacies and stories of resilience, of resistance, and of quiet power. It's easy to overlook the people behind the objects that we see in museums, but this exhibit is a reminder that behind every handcrafted chair, every stitched textile, every engraved vessel, there was a person shaping not only a craft, but also their own identity and place in history. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this visit as much as I did, and I will see you all another day in another adventure. Bye, guys.